Great. So I think we're just one last person. Great. So I think we are all ready. And thank you so much, everybody, for taking time on this rainy day to go through with us on our next App Elite training and start our Grow App Business session. So if we move on to the next slide, first of all, let's just have a quick round of introductions. So hi, I'm Hayden, and great to see all of you again. I'm the senior account manager supporting the team and also coordinating the App Elite program. Today, I'm also joined by Donna, who you also see on the screen, and she'll be taking through with you guys a little bit more on app campaigns, and she's definitely a key member of the team in terms of driving app growth in Hong Kong. And some of you may have already been working with her on some campaigns, but let me quickly pass a short bit of time to her to give a quick introduction.
Thank you, Hayden. And hi, everyone. And I'm the app specialist in Google, and I'm very excited to go through the journey with all of you to basically help you understand about our app campaign, as well as understand how we can actually help grow your business. Cool. So I know that today we also want to make it personable and also make it fun. So we actually want to share some personal app, like our favorite app, to you guys. Maybe I'll pass it to Hayden to talk about it.
Sure. So, we'd love to hear from you guys, maybe in the chat, just as a little icebreaker. What are some of the apps that you guys are using on a daily basis, or what apps, that you guys are very fond of? Please do share those in the chat. And I'm sure that, we may also learn a thing or two about each other or find new apps that we may find useful. So I'll just share a little bit of the app that I've been using most regularly recently is Carousel. So definitely for me during the pandemic, I took a lot of time to really declutter and clean my house. And so both me and my family really found a lot of things that we're not using on the day-to-day, like old phones, clothes that we bought in like sales. So it was great to really use the app to list the things that we didn't want and really get those sold. And I actually found that it's very easy to sell things and list where you want to trade and get the conversations going. At the same time, if you want to share some of the listings, actually, when you screen cap on Carousel, they have a great function to really show kind of all the details. So I found it very helpful there, and also not only selling but also looking for some things to buy from time to time. So that's on me. Donna, any sharing on your end on what apps you like the most or your favorite app?
Yeah, actually, speaking of my favorite app, lately, because I think in Hong Kong, COVID restriction has lifted a little bit. So I've been planning my travel plans. I'm planning to go to Hawaii and also LA soon. So I've been looking into Airbnb apps a lot. And for those of you who are a big fan of Airbnb, they have updated their app recently with a better user experience. So now you can search through finding like campsites or some really, really cool housing options, like living in a vineyard and things like that. So from my favorite app perspective, I definitely think Airbnb is up there with great user experience. I keep going back to find crazy homes that I can potentially live in. Yeah, I think then, any of you guys want to share your favorite apps as well? Feel free to put in the chat as well. Oh, Duolingo. Yeah, I love it. Download it to see how they leverage gamification. Yeah, I think user experience is definitely a way for driving that users to come back. We'll definitely also talk about one of the app campaign out there that actually helps bring in more users back, existing users back to an app. Futu, of course. Who doesn't want to make some money in this market, right?
I also saw YU there. Great call out. I'm sure a lot of us have seen some of the recent campaigns they've been doing for the U2Me and heard the new jingle. So definitely top of mind and getting a lot of app notifications as well on how to best use your YU points in doing both in some of the rewards and redemptions.
Great, awesome. So
yes, collecting some of your shopping and also collecting YU points. No, thank you guys for all of your questions. And it's really good to see how apps play a role in simplifying some of the actions in our lives. And for today's session, we want to make sure we're asking questions, you guys are engaged. So definitely, if anything comes up, please ask questions in the chat. What we'll do as a team is if it's in the relevant section that we're speaking about at that time, we'll answer it then and there. If not, we've also reserved some time at the end to kind of go through some of the remainder questions. So next, we can also quickly share what our agenda is today. So first of all, we'll first recap some of the things that we talked about in the first session. And then Donna will kind of share a bit more on the app campaign overview and then the different app types that we have, as well as some best practices. And then we'll finish it with a bit of a Q&A at the end. Cool. So let's quickly share back or recap and refresh some of your memory on some of the things that we talked about last time. So I think in our last sessions, definitely shared quite a bit on how apps are of value to you and your different industries. And just recapping some of the few key highlights from the last session, we talked about a few points. First of all, people who order on your app generally spend more. So we see on the average order value that is significantly higher than that on mobile and slightly less on compared to desktop. At the same time, we also know that people on your apps tend to view more products, more than 4.6 times more than your mobile website. And lastly, they convert higher than they do on desktop or other channels. We also talked about in the last session some of how web and app play different roles, and they complement each other in the user journey. So for some app-exclusive clients, that this is not as relevant for you, but some of our hybrid clients, how you place your website and your app in two different categories of the user journey may be also helpful for you in thinking how you plan your upcoming marketing campaigns. So outside of that, in terms from a session perspective, today's session will be focusing more on understanding app campaigns as well as the campaign best practices. And then we'll be following that up with the measurement and the iOS readiness session later this month. As mentioned last time, we also want to make sure we have all of kind of like the key hygiene and best practices shared with you within the month of June, so that upcoming in July, August, and onwards, your team can start really implementing those in your campaigns and working out potential case studies and working with your IMs and AMs to unlock more app opportunities for you in your accounts. Lastly, as a recap, we also want to share with you again and bring back to you around the app maturity lifecycle. So we talked about how apps go through different stages, from kind of more of a pre-launch stage to a growth and a maturity phase. At the same time, how on the Google side, we can help you fuel your growth and maturity, both with App Campaign for installs and App Campaigns for engagement. And today, Donna will be sharing a little bit more on both of these campaign types. And so without further ado, I'll pass the time on to Donna to kind of give the team an overview of what app campaigns are.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Hayden, for the introduction. So of course, we'll start by introducing what App Campaign is and a little bit about the history. So before I start, I also want to engage with the group here. I want you to kind of let me know whether you know this answer. So what makes Google App Campaign so special? So first, A, streamline the process and make it easier to promote. B, it promote across Google's largest properties. C, automatically optimize. Or D, all of the above. This should be an easy one. Yep, I see the answers coming in. It is D. So the app campaign is really special because we have done a lot of studies and we understand the pain from marketers. 80% of team, the time previously is spent on menu tasks like creating ads, keywords, managing bids, reporting. That leaves only 20% of the time for strategic activities. So that's why in Google's products, a lot of our reiteration, we actually put in a lot of automations in it. And when we build out App Campaign, we have automation in mind because we want to free up time so that marketers can do more strategic work. And so it enters Google App Campaign. It's born in 2016, so compared to other products, it's actually relatively new. It is the first universal campaign, and what that means is you just need to set up one campaign, and it actually is able to be displayed or promote in different properties in Google. It is very simple to manage and also is effective at driving results if you tell us what your marketing objectives are and also by optimizing different bid strategies. So it is the reason why it is so powerful is also because there is built-in machine learning. And what that means is with one campaign, you don't have to actually set up any targeting. You just need to let us know the bid strategies, the budget you have in mind, and then it would actually serve. And it's served in multiple properties. And we'll talk about this in more in depth later on. But I basically want to share with you that you can reach users in the right context, such as discovering on Play, searching on Google.com, engaging with their apps, surfing the web, or watching on YouTube. So it's actually across multiple properties in just one campaign.
So Donna, I'm going to take off my Google cap and also take on my attendee cap and ask a question to you. So I do have an app and I want to drive more app downloads to help me grow my app user base. If that is the case, then what format should I really be using?
Great, and I'm very glad that you asked this question, because when we actually set up App Campaign, the most important question is, what are you driving, right? So a lot of times when we're entering new markets or when we're just launched a new app, we want to drive install. So we have a campaign type called App Campaign Installs, specifically to drive new users to download your app. So inside App Campaign Install, there are actually 3 broad App Campaign types. And as you can see here, we have this linear continuum that is from driving volume to driving user quality. We'll talk about another campaign type later on to drive user quality, but I want to point out that in these 3 broad app campaign types, they are AC installs, App Campaign Installs, App Campaign Actions, and App Campaign Value. What that means is for App Campaign Installs, by changing the bid strategy to CPI or max conversions, you're actually driving the maximum conversion, so driving the maximum installs possible. And the scenario for that is if you have a new app launch in that market, or if you really care about user acquisition. The App Campaign Install that you should use should be AC installs, and you should actually be setting this bidding strategy. So for example, if you actually want to drive more in-app event, then AC Action would be a better option. And what that means is if you can actually specify, for example, account opening, register, add to cart, purchase, these in-app events, and if you have a CPA in mind, then you should actually go for App Campaign Installs and AC Action as a campaign type. And by setting CPA, your acceptable CPA as a way to optimize for new users who are going through that action. Lastly, I think for a lot of the retail clients, you actually care a little bit more about the like return on ad spend, basket size, kind of these metrics. Then what you can do is actually we have an AC value, which you can actually bid towards our ROAS, which is an in-app value. So here you can see that depending on how mature that market is and also your marketing objective, you should set your App Campaign Install accordingly. So I'll also go through each again and also share with you a case study that can inspire you on how to decide which one to choose from. So for installs, again, it is to find new users likely to install your app at a target CPI. So we have actually an amazing case here, actually from Hong Kong. And it's really fresh because it's during COVID time. We're still in COVID time. But Prudential basically launched and scaled its Pulse Health app. So Prudential is already a pretty well-known insurance brand. And in 2020, they have been going through a digital transformational journey. And what they have decided to do is they want to launch this Pulse app, an all-in-one health app for users who care about their health. And I think it is very relevant during this COVID-19 times. To do that, their major marketing goal is to drive downloads. So their approach is definitely we have share with them the best practices and strategies. They also share with us that they want to drive a significant volume of install at scale, but also they have a CPI in mind. So what we have done is we advise them to do App Campaign Installs with CPI and able to drive it at a cost that they are happy about. So as you can see here, as a result, They have over 200K of downloads after 24 hours. This is a significant scale. At the same time, they're in the health and fitness Google Play and App Store. First week after launch, they are #1 ranked. So it also shows that they're very successful and effective in driving that volume. And I think the Chief Customer and Marketing Officer also gave that comment that this app campaign type is very effective in reaching out key target audience within a short period of time, able to drive that scale as well as meeting that CPI. Cool. Let me go through maximize conversions. So what this is also to drive new users, but you actually care about scale more than maybe the CPI, and you have a budget in mind. So this bidding strategy would be the best option for you. I think a lot of the maybe e-commerce clients or clients that have a seasonal time that you have to promote your app, this is definitely the best bidding strategy or campaign type for you to choose from. And we have a case here from Shopee. Basically, it uses maximized conversions to get 30% higher install at a similar or lower CPI during peak seasonal events. So I think for a lot of the retail clients or e-commerce clients, you really care about some key sales period. For them, it is the September 9th, October 10th, November 11th, etc. And what they want to do is they want to drive maximum installs and in multiple markets in Malaysia, Thailand, Taiwan, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Philippines, and Brazil. So what they've done is they launched this campaign. They're able to hit their volume of installs significantly. And also we see great results. Although their key results wasn't about CPI, but they're also very happy with their cost across different markets. So definitely for our app campaign, because we're able to promote in different properties, this is a really great option to drive that scale. Thirdly, I want to share with you about actions. So we want to find new users who complete a selected in-app event at a set target CPIA and budget. Although this is optimizing for an in-app action, I also want to share that driving install definitely should be the top of mind for all of you first. And once you actually have sort of enough install volume, then you can think about, okay, maybe I can go for optimizing more in-app events. So here we have a case. This is a very interesting case as well because this is from finance. And I know that in Hong Kong, finance clients definitely want to drive that sort of in-app transaction, driving account sign up, etc. So what this case study is different is that they compare to other paid channels, and they see that Google app is able to drive 12% more conversions for them. So this is a case from the UK from Starling Bank. Their focus is to drive user acquisition at scale while also building brand recognition. So this is really lower funnel sort of campaign strategy, and they have used a phase approach. So in the very beginning, they definitely use the app campaign installs for CPI, and then they slowly have a phase 2 where they target for in-app events. So they have a target CPA for driving user acquisitions. And I think with that approach, this is something that I think a lot of the advertisers here can definitely learn from. This allows them to effectively capture mid and lower funnel traffic at a competitive CPA. The spike they see gain momentum and able to drive incremental growth at scale. So we see here drive 12% more conversion and also 28% average month-on-month boost in conversion through the app campaigns. So lastly, I know there are a number of types of campaigns, but I also want to go through one more case study with you guys. This is T-ROAS. This is, of course, more relevant for retail or e-commerce app clients. So this is to maximize in-app actions at a target ROAS, getting one step closer to your revenue and profit goals. Also want to put down here that this is only available exclusively for GA4 Firebase client. So if your campaign is not bidding for GA4 Firebase, you will not be able to activate this campaign type. So for e-commerce client, this is very important to note. So of course, we have an e-commerce case that we want to share. This case is from Shenzhen, China. Sable used T-ROAS bidding for app campaigns to drive additional high-quality users. So the background is they're a leading online fashion brand, delivers China-made products with exceptional quality. And before T-ROAS campaign was available, of course, because they care about that sort of in-app actions and things like that, they were bidding on target CPA campaign. But of course, I think for e-commerce clients, you want the bidding strategy, or you want your campaign to be basically driving the results that internally that result should be aligned, right? So to actually maintain that ROI level, to meet your internal marketing goals, they're so glad that T-ROAS campaign is available. So we advise them to set up first the GA4 Firebase and bid on it. That allows us to give additional signals, because that is transaction value signals, to your Google Ads and able to launch the target ROAS campaign. And with that, they see 34% additional higher quality app users and 36% increase of first purchase conversion rate. So this new optimization strategy was instrumental for this client and a lot of e-commerce client to bring in incremental high quality users, as well as driving more revenue for them. Cool. So I want to take a pause here and make us think a little bit. So I want to ask you guys these two questions. Are your app campaigns right now really optimizing to the right objectives? And does my set objective really match my goal as your business? Cool. All
Yeah,
right.
so I think, Donna, that was definitely a good wrap up, especially on the app campaign installs. And definitely for some of our clients here, I'm not sure a lot of our clients that we do see tend to be just working mainly on bidding towards a target CPI for the installs, but may not be aware of, whether or not they can actually bid on not only on a CPI to drive that install, but actually they can also have an additional in-app event that they're bidding for. Or, if you're using GA4 Firebase, looking at the total ROAS and your lifetime value to see the effectiveness of that spend. So hopefully for some of our clients here, that may be something you can explore in your upcoming campaigns, or adding that into your mix upcoming.
Yeah, definitely. So now let's shift gear a little bit. I think I gave a hint that there is another campaign type called app campaign engagement. So why don't I talk a little bit more about this? So we have this continuum again. If you want to drive more volume, of course, go for ACI, and there are different app campaign types for it. But if you want to drive for user quality, then we have an app campaign type called ACE, and the E stands for engagement, and that is to drive in-app engagement for existing app users. And there are two bidding strategies for different sort of use case. So there's target CPA as well as target ROAS. So basically you're doing remarketing essentially for an in-app user. And we have a minimum requirement of 250K user base. So if you do not have enough users for your app, then this app campaign type will not be suitable for you.
Donna, I'm going to continue with the questions. So, just taking again as an attendee, I'm already using EDMs and also push notifications to engage my app users. And, I'm seeing good click rates and engagement on that. So what is the value of me using an ACE campaign versus kind of some of the organic channels that I'm already using to drive that app conversion, to drive like the app engagement?
Thank you for the question again, Hayden. That's a really good question. A lot of people ask this question because, in an app sort of environment, you guys already have those users in mind. You guys are using these kind of ways to engage with them. Like, why should you actually place an advertisement, ACE campaign to do that? So there are actually many reasons. I want to share with you that, well, first of all, 75% of smartphone users have downloaded an app and actually forgot it was on their phone. I'm also in this bucket. I have more than 50 apps in my phone, but I don't use all of them all the time. So push notifications, yes, is a way, but does everyone actually enable push notification? You also want another way to really engage with the users along the user journey. Also, we also see that 37% of installs remain in use after 7 days. What happened after 7 days? You should actually engage them. So, and also 52% of existing customers spend more on in-app purchases than new ones. So I think this data point is, I think a lot of us already know this, because for brand new users, you take time to really build that brand image, let them know about your app, and then download it. But for users who have already downloaded your app, already know your brand so well, they have already used some of the functions. So reminding them to do it again, it's more effective and it's easier to drive in more business value. And also, we also see this number that push notification actually only reaches less than 50% of the install base, because you can disable it, or there are other configuration that you don't get that notification. And we also have a different industry breakdown here. I think this breakdown is for different, for example, media industry, the numbers are much less. For finance clients, your push notification effectiveness is only 33%, for travel 30%, for retail 34%. So what about the rest? What are other ways that you can effectively bring your message across? An ACE campaign is actually the one of the better way to optimize and also get that message across to users. Also, re-engaging customer leads to a higher customer value. We talked about it just now. We see that 50% uplift in revenue of paying users who were targeted. So definitely engaging with returning customers can bring in higher value for your app or for your business. So that's why this is the major reason why we should engage with them.
Okay, Donna. So I'm sold that we need to run ACE campaigns. Our ad push aren't actually reaching the full base, and actually, with ACE campaigns, it may be a cheaper way to engage somebody who I've already captured with a CPI in the past, and make sure that I can maybe get them again. But what else are kind of the other use cases that I can have for businesses to really adopt ACE campaigns?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we know that here we have different sort of advertisers here. So we want to inspire you guys with the different use case for ACE. So you can try to engage to activate, engage to upsell, engage to subscribe, engage to retain, engage to cross-sell. So for different audience case, so for engage to activate, maybe to activate users who downloaded but never opened the app. And for upsell is for users who have maybe downloaded the app, set up the account, but they have never done their first purchase. And for subscribe can be activate users for potential upgrade to subscribe more for more expensive services. Engage to retain, there might be lapsed paying lap users that you want to target. So you want to bring them back again and convert. And engage to cross-sell. Maybe your business has multiple apps, or multiple platforms, and you want users of another sister brand feature to upsell them with another feature or another service. So there are different use cases across different industry, but definitely ACE is, we think, should be one of the strategies that you can think of for your app campaign. I also want to share with you a very interesting case study, because I know, Hayden, you didn't ask me this question, but sometimes I get asked a lot about, so if I'm using ACI campaign already, should I actually use ACE? How can we better use those two together? So this case study actually addressed this really well. So Pandora Media basically used ACE to increase Google attributed active listener by 300%. So they are a subscription-based music streaming platform, and they want to drive basically monthly active users or monthly active users, because their business model is to drive subscriptions. And David here basically mentioned that Google App Campaign for engagement has some of the strongest data signals, enabling them to reach the users they want to target efficiently at scale. And they can also re-engage with users who maybe didn't come back to listen to the music. So here, the business objective is to grow monthly active listeners through acquiring new users and reactivating lapsed users. So what they have done is they have launched ACI campaign as well as with ACE campaign together. And the result is very significant. Basically, their overall CPA actually dropped by 65%. So their implementation strategy is that for ACI campaign, of course, they have meet all the best practices. They have set the goals and bids according to what Google recommended them to do. For the ACE campaign, they target lapsed user and launch ACE complementary to their ACI campaign. And their winning metric is that 300% active listener increase when ACE launched to complement their ACI campaign. And overall, they look at their CPA. It has a 65% lower CPA overall for Google campaigns with the addition of ACE campaigns. So this is something I think I want to share with you guys, because a lot of times when we think about campaigns setup or even launching different campaigns, we're very separate. We think about, okay, when we launch this campaign, we shouldn't do this one. But what we want to show here is that for your whole marketing cycle, we can actually target ACI with ACE, and the overall metrics that you can think of, we can try to meet that. So if you guys have any more question on this and how you can complement ACI and ACE together, feel free to speak with your AM, IM, and we can definitely provide more guidance to set up an experiment campaign or and try it out. Cool. So although we did talk about a lot about ACE campaigns and how effective it is, there's some prerequisites that we want to go through. There are 3 of them. So the first one is you need to have minimum installs of 250K users, and you have to set up deep linking, must have universal or app links or custom schemes. And third one is for conversion tracking. You have to have conversion tracking, or else we don't know where the app campaign will bring you to the app, which page or things like that. So it can be our app attributed partners, such as like AppsFlyer, Brand, etc., or the Firebase conversion tracking. Cool. Again, I'll take a pause here. There are a lot of information, but I want to throw some questions here. Do I fit the criteria for ACE campaigns? And also think about what sort of app engagement campaigns really best fit your business needs. All right, then let's go to the next part, which is about setting up app campaign. Cool. I think Hayden, you're supposed to ask me a question here and bring in the client chat.
Yes. If I'm promoting multiple apps in my multiple countries, how is the best way for us to set up our app campaigns?
Yeah. Again, I think this question comes up a lot by different clients because you guys have a multiple countries to promote to, and you want to have a different strategy. And different markets usually have different maturity in terms of how well known is your brand, and also your marketing approach would be very different. So for app campaigns specifically, I want to share with you this sort of graph to visualize how you should set up your app campaign. So in your Google Ads account, definitely for iOS app campaign and Android app campaign, it should be separate. And then after that, if you have an ACI campaign and if you have an ACE campaign, that can be a separate campaign. So, and also you can separate it by country. So maybe an Android campaign for the US, iOS campaign for Malaysia, and even for install campaigns and actions campaign, it can also be separated by geography. So this is the recommended approach to set it up. One thing I want to call out is because your ACI campaign, you don't set any targeting. It's based on the different signals that we have and use machine learning to drive that. So if you are considering having multiple install campaign, there might be potential traffic cannibalization. So what you should do is by countries. So for example, in the US, maybe because of this business nature, you want to do for ACI actions. But for Malaysia, you want to do ACI install. That is okay. But our recommendation is you shouldn't be doing multiple same campaigns all at once in the same country.
All right, Donna, I'm here back with my next question. So great, I'm clear how I should set up my campaign. But after I launch my campaign, really, how do I measure my app success?
Yeah, definitely. I think now that you know about ACI campaign, ACE campaigns, the natural question is, how should I measure it? Like, what else should I do to make sure that all the conversions are there so that I can measure my KPIs? So we want to also divide app attribution and in-app analytics into two buckets. And for app attribution is a very complicated topic. So we'll actually do this in the next sharing because that will actually focus on measurement and attribution more. But I'll talk a little bit more about in-app analytics and also a higher level measurements. So Google Ads basically allows you guys to integrate with different tracking methods. So to track basically whether this Google Ads are able to drive that conversion, either in-store or in-app, there are 3 different ways. So if you just want to look at install specifically only for Google Play, if you don't care about anything, your app doesn't have anything else, you cannot, it takes time, maybe compliance issue, things like that, to set up different tracking. Then of course, go for the codeless install tracking way, which is your Google Play Store. This is the easiest way. If you are already allowing people to download it, immediately you can use this way. But of course, if you want to drive and look at in-app actions, things like that, your app probably already has an app tracking installed in your app. And they're usually from different partners. We support app attribution partners like AppsFlyer, Adjust, Coachella, and Branch. They already seamlessly integrate with Google Ads. In terms of the actual numbers and measurement, things like that, we'll talk about next time. But we just want to basically give you the different options available. There is also another option that, of course, we recommend, which is GA for Firebase. This is already inside GA4. GA4 Firebase allows app marketers or marketers in general to look at app behaviors, in-app behaviors, and also doing app attributions. So once you actually set up GA4 Firebase SDK in your app, then we recommend you for your Google Ads to bid on it, to bid on those conversion actions. And the reason for that is we actually are able to obtain more additional signals, especially user signals, to power your app campaign. And as we say, app campaign is fully automated. So the more signals it is, the more accurate it is. So hence, we do recommend for GA for Firebase SDK implementation.
Great. So Donna, my next question to you would be around, I'm interested in setting up our app campaign for installs. How do I actually go about setting it up specifically?
Great. And this question we definitely need to go through because we don't want you guys to launch an app campaign and then come back to us and say that, like, why are the results not good? What else can we do? Why shouldn't you tell me earlier? So now we're telling you earlier so that you can prevent any bad results happening. So for ACI and ACE, we have different best practice. But for ACI in general, you want to make sure that you give the campaign enough ramp up time. We care about budget excellence, and what we refer here is bid to budget ratio and also bidding strategy. Lastly is creative excellence, so asset coverage, ad strength scores. So for ramp up time, we want to basically share with you as much as possible what is happening in Google Ads. So this graph here, basically you see that for the first 14 days, your app campaign is still learning. And what we mean by learning is in your Google Ads, you will see that this is learning, or the phase is like we're still helping to ensure that your CPA or your installs are in an optimal place. So for the first 14 days, you should expect to see fluctuations. But if you look at a longer term, once we have around 100 conversions, your Google Ads usually will stabilize. And if you look at a longer term, you should see that where your CPA, your target CPA that you have set, should be something that your app campaign is reaching. So during this learning process, we don't expect you guys to do a lot of changes, especially to your bids, your budget, because once you do, the campaign immediately starts running and ramping up again. So AC campaign does need time and conversion to amass enough data. So give time for AC to learn. And again, we here this is the best practice of setting up GA4 Firebase and bid on GA4 Firebase conversion, because you give us more signals. Setting up CPA bid higher will result in faster ramp up. Set a bid of 1.5x higher for iOS compared to Android, and also avoid any budget limitation. Also, give your time. When we talk about don't change that frequently, we also mean that don't do drastic changes. So here we have two examples, one on the left. So if you do frequent and excessive adjust, your app campaign might risk not able to serve, and also the learning period would require longer time. So this is something that you should be aware of. So even if you do want to change because of sudden changes in market volatility, etc., we do suggest you to do only 10% or 15% kind of change. And this, in a way, allow your Google Ads campaign to stabilize and able to not have that sort of huge signals in your Google Ads. So second of all is about budget excellence. So setting the right budget is super important, because budget gives the room for app campaign to learn. So we have two budget examples here. So one is 50x your target CPI or 10x your target CPA. So budget is essentially for giving the room for your campaign to learn and improve performance. So when you're thinking about how much budget I need for my app campaign, do have this number in mind. This best practice is actually something that we have tested throughout with a lot of clients already. If you're not able to meet this threshold, your app campaign may not run as effectively. So this is really key for your app campaign. So lastly, about creatives. So as we talk about how this app campaign is able to run in multiple inventory, including YouTube as well as display. So not only providing us the text, but also providing us different image and also video formats are super important. And we also have a quantity number here. So do provide as many as possible. There is a cap of 20 videos, but definitely if you have more videos, there's no harm of providing us more, because it's allowing us to rotate different ad formats and see which one is more effective in driving that, as well as providing us more space to promote your app.
Okay, Donna. Well, I think that was clear. In terms of a creative side, we want to have at least 5 headlines, 5 descriptions, and up to 20 images and 20 videos. But what else, or what other tips do you have kind of for us in terms of on the creative side?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked, because I want to put it out there that for ACI campaign, YouTube Shorts is newly available. So what that means to you guys is you should actually prepare more Shorts asset formats. So it is a 60 seconds or less video. I think the format is 1x1. So by providing that sort of format inside your app campaign, it allows your app campaign to run in YouTube Shorts. And you should actually do it as soon as possible and get your brand out there for people to know. So other than that, we have different, I would advise you, this is a very simple advice, but think about the messaging, right? You also want to think about how you write the ads, like your introduction, your attention grabber, benefit statement, call to action. Those are also super important when you think about your creatives. So we have some examples here. So you should organize your creative asset into different themes. So maybe this ad group is about branding, this ad group is about seasonal, this ad group is about promotions. So I think both for ACI and ACE, you should have different messaging that comes out. One of the examples that I can think of is if you, for your ACE campaign, you're targeting to existing users to drive maybe transactions, right? So do you have any discounts for them and or any gimmicks so that you can give them a little push so that they can do that in-app action? So these are all really important things to think about. So lastly, I also want to share with you that within your Google Ads, there is this tool called Ad Strength Tool, where you can think, where we already give you that score of whether your ad creatives are doing poor, average, good, or excellent. We'll also share with you the breadth that you have. So for example, you're missing out videos, you're missing out images, etc. We'll also already have this graph for you. So do look at it and try to improve as much as possible.
Great, Donna. So I think that was some great insights on the creative side and also setting up our campaigns. Also curious kind of for app campaigns for engagement, are there any particular things that we need to be looking into to make sure we're setting ourselves up for success?
Yes, definitely. I think for app campaign engagement, there are a little bit more best practices just because having enough data signals and user base is super important. But these are the 5 ACE best practices: sending connector pings, set campaign budgets accordingly, bid for 100+ attributed conversions per week, creatives, and also avoid mixed bidding. We talked about creatives and also budget early on for ACI, so I will try to not talk about it as much, but I want to talk about attributed conversions. Oh, actually, sorry, I'll have to talk about campaign budgets again. So for ACE, because actually for engagement campaigns, you might have set up different in-app actions. So we'll divide your in-app actions into more shallower events to your deeper events. So for your deeper events, the daily budget should be 15x your target CPA, and you can actually do daily budget uncap, because as long as we're meeting that target CPA goal, then you should be fine. However, for your if you're bidding towards your shallower events, then we suggest you to do a bigger budget, so 50x your target CPA, so that you can actually bring more people, more users down their funnel. And also, we'll talk about 100+ attributed conversions per week. For ACEs to run effectively and smoothly, definitely having enough conversions are important. So that's why we suggest you, from the budget perspective, having a bigger target, like 50x target CPA, bring in more users and conversions can allow your ACE to run. So we have this sort of benchmark and best practice to have at least 100+ attributed conversions per week. But if you don't meet this, I think do talk to your AMs and IMs. We'll try to think about whether to set up more shallower conversions to drive those first before bidding on the deeper funnels, deeper conversion goals. Cool. We have the second quiz time. So we also want to ask all of you here, do you guys know what is the minimum recommended audience size in ACE campaign? Great. See, a lot of answers are coming in. And to our surprise, the answer is actually 100K. So it's A. So 250K, that number is about your app should have at least that number of install user. But for audience, we will recommend to have over 100K. But over 100K audience size is already a lot. But of course, if you have 250K, that's actually amazing. That's great. So I want to share with you 2 more pro tips. So one is choose a large audience size, and second is import all conversions to Google Ads. So for a model to work, for ACE to run effectively, we recommend to have over 100K plus device IDs per audience list. And if a client has a user list with less than 100,000, I mean, you might be dissatisfied with your ACE performance because you're targeting to a very small user base. So we definitely would suggest you to increase that size possible. So what if the audience is lower than 100K? So we have three tips here. So one, increase your bid. Second, increase auction win rate and increase your conversion. So of course, you should definitely think about your audience size. And one more thing is, I think from some of the advertisers, when you guys think about audience size, you might only think about the overall audience size and forget about which audience country that you're targeting to. So for example, if your campaign, you're targeting this audience size that's over 100K, but you're actually splitting the country to US only or Malaysia, for example, your audience size is actually not 100K. Your audience size is much smaller. So this might be one of the reasons why you're not able to see good results for your ACE campaign. And also we have another pro tip here. It is to send full in-app conversion events. So what that means is do import all conversion to Google Ads. You don't need it to be using it for bidding, but by just importing all these conversion events, it's actually helping your Google Ads giving us additional signals, and our models are able to make better predictions, lead to better performance. So currently, minimum, if you want to set up ACE, you just need to set import first open and section start. But of course, if you're an e-commerce client, you might have add to cart and a lot of the different in-app actions. Do set it up, do import it into Google Ads. Cool. So we have gone through a lot of things. So let me actually summarize it into 3 points. So I hope that from today's section, you guys know about the different app campaign types and also the different best practice to grow your app business. So for the first one is we hope that you know about the different campaign solutions within ACI campaign. So choose those according to your objectives. Choose the right bidding strategy that best fit your marketing goals. Second of all is you know about ACE campaign a lot more. So hopefully you guys can consider a better together approach, having both ACI and ACE and drive engagement accordingly, because we see a lot of great results to drive lower CPA. And lastly, best practices are super important. So if you want to actually power your app campaign success, do make sure that you're maximizing your performances with enough time, good creative, and also have a good budget excellence in mind. Cool. And lastly, I know that we have gone through a lot of the best practices. You might not be able to remember all of this. For selective advertisers, we have prepared an App Elite scorecard for you. So what you need to do is reach out to your AM or IMs. We have prepared that. We look into your Google Ads account already, and we have a breakdown into whether you guys are meeting these ACI, ACE best practice, whether you have set up GA for Firebase, as well as Appify, which we'll talk about in the next workshop. Cool. And I think that pretty much sums up the workshop for today. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to write in the chat and we'll also address them.
Yep. So I'm also going to take this moment here for all of our attendees. If you while we are also collecting some of the questions from you guys. First of all, we do have our next session on June 20th, so please keep that in your calendar, and that's a more focus on measurement. And also, we would love to have your feedback. So please scan the QR code on your phone. We know some of you can't access Google Forms on your Office device, so if you can scan it on your own mobile, you can share your feedback for this session in the QR code on your left. And on the right, we have another QR code for the forum where we can share with us ongoing questions that you have for app campaigns. And we'll be answering these questions throughout the different sessions that we have.
Yeah. Also want to do a little shout out for the next section. So other than talking about measurement, attributions, things like that, we'll also have a very special guest where she will talk about Google Play Store optimization. So this is something that is very special because it's not ads related, but something that I think for app businesses, you guys want to optimize for to drive more installs. So she will be basically sharing some best practice for you guys. So do put it into your calendar and join our next workshop.
Great. So I've just put the link to the session survey as well as to the app-related question form so that anybody can ask questions there. I also saw a question. So Donna, Remus has asked, can we run incrementality experiments for ACE?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Some advertisers did run with us. However, in terms of eligibility and things like that, I think it might be good if you can speak with your AMs or IMs, and we can actually consider your what you want to test, and also maybe how much budget you have, and also when you want to test it. We'll talk about it more in depth.
On a separate thread, I've also had another question, which is around how frequently should we be optimizing our app install campaigns?
That's a really, really good question. I think definitely for different bidding strategies, you guys might optimize for different reasons. So for example, you want to think about budget seasonality, or maybe when you guys are comparing with your internal marketing goals, it's a little bit different, then you might need to optimize. But most of the time, you don't need to do that many changes, unless, for example, your creative, like your ad shrink score has dropped, then maybe it's good to also look into it. But also from a creative perspective, you might want to come up with different fresh creatives to remind people about your brand, and also let people know what your new offerings are. And in that case, then you do need to optimize. But I think from the budget standpoint and also the bidding standpoint, you don't need to do that many optimization.
I have a follow-up to that question, which was related, was around they have tactical creatives. So how should they add those in our existing campaigns? So I think I'll quickly take that one as well. So earlier, Donna shared the slides around how you can organize your creative assets into themes. So potentially you could have a brand ad group, a seasonal ad group, and then a promotion ad group. So we would recommend you to put those in those tactical seasonal creatives in that promotional ad group instead. Great. So just checking in for the last few minutes. Do we have any more questions from any of you guys here? Feel free to raise your hand, speak on the mic, or put it in the chat. Okay, great. If there are no further questions, then I think we can close the session off a little early. And the next time, I think we'll also just tighten the timing and the calendar block on you